When in doubt, tell the truth.
Watch out, you'll get us all killed.
HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. One of the men's rights movement's main interest is in legal and social reform regarding how our society responds to domestic abuse when the victim is male. Currently, law and policy governing resources for abuse victims, police, prosecutor, and court response to allegations of abuse, and programs to help perpetrators reform their approaches to interpersonal conflict are all informed by statistics and ideological claims presented in feminist research. In several nations, particularly those whose legal systems are influenced by English common law, the national legislation responding to the issue of domestic violence is modeled on the 1994 United States law, the Violence Against Women Act. The writing of that law by then-Senator Joe Biden was directly informed by claims made in Mary P. Koss's 1987 survey report, The Scope of Rape, Incidence and Prevalence of Sexual Aggression and Victimization in a National Sample of Higher Education Students, and in the Duluth Model of Coordinating Community Responses to Domestic Violence. Both of these publications are heavily biased, with original claims based on only examining victims' experiences reported by women, and only reports of male perpetrators. Their data was run through an ideological filter rather than an unbiased assessment, in order to make the results fit preconceived notions about heterosexual relationships. Thus, their reporting was shaped by the social conjecture feminists call patriarchy theory. Their assessments of intimate partner and sexual violence were based on the feminist belief that these types of violence exist as a means of enforcement of men's patriarchal domination of and control over women. When new research is done on any topic, its parameters and direction normally rely on precedents set by previously published work, if such work exists, so once this outlook was established, it set the stage for this type of research to ignore male victims and female perpetrators, or to try to reinterpret data on these inconvenient samples to avoid contradicting feminist narratives. Feminists have built a profitable grift around this scam by pressuring for government funding for organizations intended to support domestic violence victims in escaping and recovering from abusive relationships. They designed paid domestic violence victim support roles within these organizations. These organizations and these positions create a demand for graduates whose academic curriculum includes gender studies, and that creates a demand for gender studies programs at post-secondary educational institutions. The entire domestic violence victim services industry and the academic area of gender studies have financial incentive to promote the original narrative at all costs. As a result, historically, researchers like Murray Strauss, who challenged the concept of domestic violence as a tool of patriarchal dominance and control, have been sidelined, their work buried, their reputations attacked, and their careers derailed, if not destroyed, by mainstream feminist academics. This has created a massive uphill battle for the men's rights movement in our advocacy for fair and equal treatment for victims of both sexes and for perpetrators of both sexes. Our challenge isn't just to argue the topic of equal treatment under the law. A political faction wrapped in the illusion of academic credibility has persuaded legislators that there are legitimate reasons for unequal treatment of the sexes, specifically in this one area of law. That expands our challenge to contradicting that faction's claims, an undertaking that translates into two missions. We must unravel the web of lies created by feminist researchers' biased methods for collecting, assessing, and reporting data, a task men's rights advocates have been doing for decades. However, feminists generally strive to avoid information that does not suit their narratives. Often, even the most fair interpretation of their research only leads to the conclusion that their reports do not present a whole, accurate picture of the studied phenomena. This does not help to fill in the missing parts of that picture. It just leaves them blank. We cannot achieve reform by continually shouting at legislators and other policymakers, "Look, half or more of this picture is blank. You must reform existing law and policy to take into consideration information the pattern of empty spots indicates is probably being omitted." They're busy responding to the pressure campaigns of an organized political faction using an intimidating body of work and the support of public beliefs they've influenced in their crusade for policy based on their established narratives. They don't have the wiggle room or the inclination to change their course of action in response to learning that the information it's based on is both inaccurate and incomplete. In light of this, our second challenge is to gather a body of evidence which, when evaluated without a gender bias, will complete that picture. Such evidence can be used to reform public perceptions regarding this topic and hopefully change the social attitudes that currently support feminist pressure campaigns for discriminatory law and policy. This, in turn, would be instrumental in changing the basis for policymakers' choice, opening the door for policy reform, based on a more accurate understanding of the phenomenon the policy is designed to address. That is where unbiased researchers come in. In May of this year, we talked to Deborah Powney about her groundbreaking survey investigating the experiences of partner abuse, the effects of abuse, and the potential for recovery in male victims. With the assistance of a broad community of sources, the sample represented in Deborah's survey achieved an unprecedented size and scope, providing an equally unprecedented expansion on the available information about men's abuse experiences. Today, just in time for International Men's Day 2020, the survey for her next project has gone live. For this project, Deborah is more closely examining men's experiences of coercive control. This is a type of abuse involving a pattern of controlling behaviors a perpetrator uses to gain control and power by eroding the victim's autonomy and self-esteem, giving the perpetrator power over their partner and making it difficult for the victim to leave. This type of abuse, when described as a female victim experience, is one of the reasons victim shelters exist and receive government funding in many Western countries. Part of the expected function of these agencies is to act as a safe haven and provide advocacy and support for victims of abuse who want to leave their abusive environments and would otherwise be trapped by their abuser's use of coercive control. Because this is widely thought of as an issue experienced mostly by women, resources for abused men are scarce and often not designed for male victims, but instead for male perpetrators. Deborah hopes to provide a more complete picture of this type of abuse, one that includes male victims' experiences. That information would give the men's rights movement a valuable tool to use in our advocacy for law and policy based on a more accurate understanding of the phenomenon. To facilitate this, there will be a link in the low bar of this video and the live stream for anyone wishing to participate in the survey. With your help, men's rights advocates can better work to improve community approaches to partner abuse so that male victims and female perpetrators can be brought into the picture and provided with the help they need. Tonight's HBR Talk will feature Deborah Powney discussing her survey as part of her work on the subject of male victims of abuse. The discussion streams on multiple platforms. You can tune in Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern or find other viewing or listening options on HoneyBadgerBrigade.com.